Johnny's got a secret that he wants to share. Cleaning up your comics with the utmost care. Press it real smooth, make the covers pop. Take that grade higher, straight to the top. At Johnny's Comic Stuff, where the magic starts. Bring your books to life, give them brighter hearts. Clean, press, submit, watch the value rise. Turn that hidden gem into a certified prize. Dust and dirt gone like they weren't there. Wrinkles flattened out like they disappeared. From golden to modern, every age and line. Johnny's got the touch, making treasures shine. At Johnny's Comic Stuff, where the magic starts. Bring your books to life, give them brighter hearts. Clean, press, submit, watch the value rise. Turn that hidden gem into a certified prize. CGC's in sight, now dreams come true. Slabs and grades, new life for you. Color pops, pages glow. Johnny knows comics, that's how it goes. At Johnny's Comic Stuff, where the magic starts. Bring your books to life, give them brighter hearts. Clean, press, submit, watch the value rise. Turn that hidden gem into a certified prize.
Happy Sunday. Welcome back, guys. I got a couple books we're going to be cleaning and pressing today. If you watched my last video, you would have seen these two books, and then another book we're going to be cracking out of the case, popping out, doing some cleaning and pressing CPR on. I did want to say, went to the Alex Ross exhibition at the Dunn Museum last night with Eric from SideQuest Comics, and it was an absolute blast. Alex Ross was there. All of his original artwork from the Timeless collection was there. If you get an opportunity, I know it's a traveling collection. They're going to be going around the country. It's going to be here in Chicago for a couple months. Yeah, definitely check it out. It's really neat to see that stuff. It supports, this is like a local, smaller museum, mainly for kids and stuff, but it's a really interesting exhibit. And to see the size of some of these pictures, it's surprising how big they are compared to what you would think. And then others, how small they are compared to what you'd think. So yeah, also check out Eric from SideQuest. We're going to, at some point, go through and show some of the stuff we got together, probably on his channel. So check him out. Make sure you subscribe to Eric, SideQuest Comics. And then just a little bit of housekeeping. I am going on vacation on Friday, on the 4th of July. So I will be out for about a week and a half. So the next 2 Sundays, there will be no cleaning show because I will not be here. And there'll be probably no content. I might try and have one video scheduled to drop in there. It's just going to really depend on what I can put together this week. So don't fret. I will be back about 2 Sundays, and then I'll be back doing cleaning and pressing. So let's go ahead and get into these 2 books. I'm going to first off put my gloves on, as always. Not as always. It depends on the book. Some books, I don't wear gloves. If they're really rough, I don't like to wear gloves so I can feel all the stuff going on, so I don't make a mistake, so I can feel if therethere's any tears or small imperfections that I need to be careful around. And I've said before, like if you check the description, there's links to most of the stuff I use here, including my press. as well as the books I use to kind of learn how to press and clean. Highly recommend those books. Highly recommend, if not the tools that I use directly, at least something very similar, because they all work very well. I've had great results. So we're going to go through these. Again, these were both shown unboxing on my last video. So Captain Marvel number 48. This is from 1952, maybe. Let's see, where are you at? 1945. So yeah, that's right. End of the war. So these are Fawcett books. Fawcett has very porous paper, so you got to be careful when you're cleaning this. It's easy to push dirt into the paper just because it's very porous paper. I would also say if you hop a book like this, like a Fawcett book, temperatures need to be a lot lower than most books. Most Golden Age books, when you hop them, if you hop them, you do need to turn that temperature down. And the biggest reason is it'll actually cook out. If you go too hot, it'll cook out a lot of the ink and could dull up your book. It won't damage the book other than it'll take a lot of the color pop out. So if you're going to hop them, I wouldn't go over like 130. I think 130 degrees is a good temperature. But for pressing, standard pressing on books like this, I'm 150 degrees is pretty standard for me. The only time I really come down from that is on a book that's maybe newer or has some kind of like insert in it, or a cardstock cover, stuff like that. But most books I stay around 150. I've seen a lot of stuff says, 140 for this, 150 for this, 165 for that. Like 150 is kind of might hit the mark spot. I like 150. So this book does have a crease in the middle. It causes some defects to the cover, but it doesn't really break color. And I don't think it's a subscription crease. You can kind of see it there, how it bends. I don't think it's a subscription crease. I think it's where someone folded it in half and put it in their pocket. Hey, what's up, Eric? You didn't miss anything, man. I just talked about last night. So, and how much fun we had. So yeah. So this book will be a pretty simple clean, pretty simple press. I'm not going to hop it. Not going to do anything crazy with it. But yeah, Golden Age, pretty easy clean. You just got, like I said, be careful because the paper's a little more porous. And then number 47, kind of the same thing. You can see there's a really good spine roll on it. That'll come out. I got to be careful because the top staple is almost popped on the cover, and I don't want to pop it. But again, I won't hop this book. It's not going to help it any. And if I did, I would keep those temperatures really low. Interior is really nice too. So should be a pretty straightforward clean and press. And then X-Men 15. So this book is one that I got like super cheap, like surprisingly cheap, like less than $50 cheap. And it just needs a press and a clean. It's an old label. So I'm going to crack it out of the case. I probably will hop this. I don't know how much of an increase it's going to get because there's a pretty good little tear in the corner here. But it's real dirty, so it's going to look a lot better. And ultimately, that's what I'm going for, is for it to look better. Grade bump's great, but at the end of the day, the book is what it is. I can only make it so much better, and all I want to do is present better. Plus, I hate these old cases. I think they look bad. I don't like the dull number. The print doesn't look as crisp as the newer labels. So we'll start with the Captain Marvels, and then we'll crack this out last. Shouldn't be a long video today. Like I said, I'm kind of in prepping for vacation, so I got a lot of stuff going on outside of comic books, which I know it's crazy to think that I have things that I prioritize over my comic books, but there's very, very little. My kids are about the only thing. So as always, we'll start with cotton rounds. Again, untreated, unfragranced cotton rounds. Get something to sit this book on. I don't like it sitting on this just because when I slide it around, it's a little bit porous. And this has a little bit of texture to it, so I don't want to take off any color. Hey, Berdazzle. So we're just going to light clean this. Again, these are a little more fragile than like 60s books, so you got to be a little careful when you're cleaning them. When you're rubbing across it, you don't want to catch an edge and tear it up. So light pressure always. And you can see they're getting a lot of dirt off there already. I don't know the collection this came from. I can't remember, but it was someone who had sold like a huge collection to heritage. It may have been like an estate collection, because every auction was like from the collection of whatever his name was. So I think that guy, I don't think he was like original owner, but I think he's had all of these books for a long time, and they were in old bags. So old bags, are bad for comics. So this thing's going to look a lot better. I don't know, grade wise, it's probably going to be about a 5.5. I don't think it's got much more potential than that, but you never know. The right grader, it could get a 6, possibly a 6.5 on the outside shot, but that's pretty unlikely. The back of this too, a lot of people waste, and when I say waste, it's not wasting, because it does look better. They waste a lot of time cleaning in these gaps between the panels. And the thing is, you can't clean the panels themselves unless there's a really obvious dirt spot inside that gap between the panels. I would not spend time on it. It's just, you're not getting anything back from it. It doesn't, you can't even tell that you've done it. It doesn't look any better, and you're not going to get any more improvement on the grade. The biggest thing you always want is just consistent. You want it to look consistent across the book. So if I can't get every little piece of dirt out of there, and it gets dark, and then light, that just looks bad. So I just kind of avoid them in general. Every once in a while, like I said, if it's really dirty, I might put a little bit of effort in it, but it'd have to have like a really bad dirt spot. I don't think these are going to clean up too much. I think the press is going to be the big impact for these books, just because they're really wavy. They have a lot of surface wrinkles. JSS, my man, what's happening? A lot of surface wrinkles. The spine roll is really bad on both of them from like stacking. But Golden Age is fun. I just did a Golden Age book for JSS that I think turned out pretty well. David, how are we, friend? All the way across the pond. What time is it there right now? It's like 6, 7 p.m., something like that. I think you said you were in Scotland or Wales, somewhere over there. One of the UK countries. I, like most Americans, recognize that those are actually different countries. Where a lot of Americans don't actually know that Wales, Scotland, and Ireland are not Great Britain, but they are part of the UK. Okay, so 10 past 7, so yeah, about 6 hours ahead of me. I actually might be coming that way in a month or two. They're trying to determine, we're either going to go somewhere in they just said the UK, they didn't say where, or France, to look at a piece of equipment we're buying. So I might be over somewhat close to you for a couple of days, and probably in August or September. So yeah, this book doesn't have a lot of, like I said, it doesn't have a lot of dirt, which is really surprising from a book that's, 80 years old, 1945. I don't know anything about Northern Ireland Republic issues. I know the Protestants and the Catholics don't like each other, but that's about all I know. Beyond that, I'm not good like most Americans with world knowledge. Like we're bad at understanding what's happening in all of the rest of the world. We tend to focus on only the news that's happening here and wars, and that's about it. Like they don't bring it up on the news. It's kind of surprising. I think that most Americans probably think that you guys spend a whole lot of time teaching history on the Revolutionary War, where I recognize for us that that's a small chunk of Europe's vast history. So it's probably more of an afterthought in England and the UK for the US leaving. So, Big Nasty, what's happening, buddy? Did you get your book squared away? I definitely don't hesitate calling them, man, because you only have 14 days from when they grade it to where they'll like do any kind of fixes. So I would definitely call them tomorrow if you haven't yet, just to get the ticket started, if anything else. And I think Chonka was saying last night, they're usually pretty good about fixing those mechanical issues they do. They'll ask for some pictures or something like that, and then they'll send you a label and have you ship it back to them. And they're a little bit quicker when they fix a mechanical error. It'll take a week or two once it gets to them, but it's a lot quicker than like a grading turnaround. So if you look at this too, there all whites on this are all pretty wide open, other than in his beard. So I'm using the bigger, my rich big nasty eraser on all the big white areas, and then I'll use the smaller one when I get up around his beard, because that's the only place that really needs it. Get a cotton round and clean this off a little bit. Getting a lot of little dust grit, and again, that's just because of the paper quality and the type of paper they used back then. Like I said, if you've never held or owned a Golden Age book, it's definitely a different paper quality, but Fawcett specifically, their paper is really porous. And it just grabs a lot. So a lot of this is dirt coming out of the like little tiny pores, and a lot of it's little tiny pieces of micro-sized pieces of paper that are actually coming off. You don't ever want to use much pressure on a Fawcett book on any part of this, whether it's cotton round, eraser, or any of that, just because it's so easy to push the dirt down into the paper. You just don't want to take a chance of that. Once it's in the paper and embedded, it's almost impossible to get out, and it will just look bad. The more I look at this too, I may actually do a hop on this. Yeah. Just because there's a lot of red in here, especially like on his shoulder and down around his beard, and a lot of that will come out with hop. I don't know yet though, because these books, like the manufacturer is very specific on like the paper, especially in this era. It's a lot more consistent nowadays between the different publications. Even independent publishers usually use a very similar type of paper, but in the 40s and 50s, especially in the 40s, because paper was a little bit scarce due to the war, they used a lot of different types. And Fawcett's paper in general, because it's so porous, it's just a tougher hop than anything else. It has a lot of, it has the ability to really easily get damaged, and you don't want to do that, obviously, with a book like this. Let's see. You weren't even aware of we call it the War of 1812. So yeah, that's funny. And that's the thing. You guys have so much history over in the UK compared to our 300 years or 270 years or whatever it was, that, and most Americans are pretty fixated on themselves, and they think the whole world revolves around our history and us, and don't recognize that the rest of the world's been around for millennia. And there's houses in the UK that are older than the United States. So it's kind of sad that people don't understand that. But yeah, that's crazy that you wouldn't even know about that. It wasn't a big war here, but I think it's kind of a common taught. The War of 1812 taught pretty commonly. Yeah, the history you guys have, it's, especially like UK and France, and then all the wars internally between, like, Scotland and England, and Wales and England, and Ireland and England. We're just an afterthought, I think, for you guys for the most part. So from a dry cleaning standpoint, yeah, that's right. Smash the like button, big thumb. Yeah, for the most part, this is kind of done from a dry cleaning perspective. You can see there's some like ink up here or something. It could be blood. That's the one thing with stains. You never know what it is. And blood does kind of dry dark like that. But also, this book's from 1945. It could be shoe polish. It could be anything. So I probably will try and give this a hop. But again, low temps, hopping at 130 max. I'm going to do shorter hop cycles so that I don't take a chance of damaging it. I mean, this isn't a huge high dollar book or anything. It's just old, and I want to make it, last and preserve it. So I'll make sure I'm cautious with it. But it presents really well. I'm sure on the camera you can see that it looks really nice. In person, there's a few things you notice right away, and again, the biggest one is that big spine crease or curl, which I hate those things. I love getting rid of those, and it just feels so good when you take. It could be chocolate. When you take a book out of the press and that curl's gone, it's like, I did it. Woohoo! So it always makes me feel good when I take those out. The next one up we're going to do is the other Captain Marvel. And again, this is still Fawcett, same range. This is, I think, 2 months later than the other book. Again, not much white, so this is more of a dry cleaning. The backs always have white. So we're just going to do the cotton round. There's a lot of fuzzy on the edge here. Can't do anything about that fuzzy paper. And that's just from like rubbing against things. When you take old paper and you just do that and rub it over and over, it gets a little bit fuzzy. So this one, definitely not going to hop the cover because the cover looks really good, and I don't want to take any color out of it whatsoever. I'm actually not even going to erase on the cover because the little bit of white it has isn't dirty at all. Yeah, so not even getting much dirt off there, which is always good. The back, there's a little bit more dirt, a lot of little spine creases, but not heavy. And these don't clean up as easy as like even from the 60s because they don't have that gloss coat on them. Or if they did, it's always worn off or a different type of gloss. Yeah, so 1100. Think about that. Like people here, like my house is old when it's like a 60-year-old house. They're like, I live in an old house, and someone over there lives in a 1,000-year-old house. I imagine it's had some upgrades through the years. I would hope, or it's a museum at this point. Yeah, so just a little bit of the color, a little bit of dirt, nothing crazy there. So again, this book really presents well. It's more about the press on this than it is about the cleaning part, but I am going to give it a once over. This one also has a lot of that red ink transfer, and it's really common. You can see it around here where it's like red or like a pinkish color around that. That's just from the way that the red ink they used at the time, it just kind of bled out over time. And you'll see that a lot. The bled technique that Captain Mike's books talk about is really good for that red bleed. But again, you got to be really careful with bled because you can very easily over whiten a book and it doesn't look right. It doesn't look good because it's whiter than it should be. But it does a great job of getting around those red bleeds. And I might do a bled on this. Again, I'm a little more cautious with older books like this, but I think it'll look a lot better. Eric, if you're still out there, did you get your thing signed? Did he hang out and wait for you? Well, I think in the 90s houses are probably definitely because that was when they were throwing them up every other week. Took them like 3 weeks to build the whole house from foundation to roof. So you can see up here, there's a lot of that fuzz, and you got to be careful because you'll start cleaning, trying to get rid of dirt, and you're actually erasing the paper, and you'll eventually wear it down to where there's nothing. Don't be afraid if you have a little bit of paper loss because that's not uncommon. You just don't want to wear it down to where it's thin. That's why you're softly erasing the whole time. You're not using heavy pressure. I'm really looking forward to this next book because I love cracking books out of old cases. So I got to stay focused on this one and not shortchange it so I can get to that next one. Oh, nice. I'll check it out. I haven't been online hardly at all this morning. Yeah, that's good. I'm glad you got that. I was worried. I didn't know if he would hang out a little bit or if they'd start ushering the people who were done out. So I'm glad you got that done. It's a great exhibit. I really appreciate you telling me about it. I actually jumped on Rich and Chonko's show for like 5 minutes while I was driving. I wasn't watching their show. I just put the camera up in front of me and was talking to them for a few minutes. And I listened to it on the way home. I showed Dope my FOMO sticker that you got me. So I appreciate that. What's up, Chonko? Yeah, so the outside edge of this back cover has really got a lot of dirt on it. So it's actually cleaned up a lot nicer than I was hoping it would. So that's good. And then, like I said, you can see that's kind of it for the clean. You can see, I'll lift it up a little bit. Hopefully, you can see all the pink around this boat and the planes. That pink color is just red bleed into the paper. And again, buy the book, read about it, the blood technique if you're ever going to do it. It's really good for stuff like this. It works really good on reds. The biggest issue is if you leave it on too long, it will start to fade the reds. There's kind of like a window of time. If you do they say 2 hours. I do like an hour and 15 minutes. But there is a very clean point. It's like if you stop now, you're good. If you go 5-10 more minutes, the red starts going. So it's like it has like an apex where it's getting better, and then it hits a point, and then immediately it'll start getting worse. So it's always good to use caution if you're going to do that and do it slow. Start off with shorter times, get a feel for it. Don't start off with books like this. Start off with books that are, less common. But this one's good. I think we're good on this book. It is ready for the press. Even if I do hop or bled either one of these books, I will always press them first, just because you don't want to do those things and have wrinkles, because it creates shadows, and it might there might be a little crease that doesn't allow the hot paper to set nicely. So always do at least a quick press before you do either one of those techniques. So both the Captain Marvels are done. I'm going to take my gloves off for grip on this next one, just so I can get a good hold of the case. But you guys have seen this before. We're going to pop this bad boy out. I've said it before, these old cases, they're usually not sealed real great, so they're kind of easy to get started in there. You can see I can, just by putting a little finger pressure on there, and get it. You can hear it's already popping apart. I'm not going to smash my fingers and try and just crazy pop it open, but I'll get that little crease started and then just do a quick flathead screwdriver pop. There's like a pin in the corner on these old ones. I'll show you that once I get it out. And once that pin breaks loose, that's like the only thing really holding it together. I don't know if it's glue or heat sealed or what, but whatever these old ones were, they just don't stay together at all on the sides and the top. The real old ones are even easier, like the zero ones that start with a zero. They have like a one-piece label that like it's just weird how it all works. It's like the label is like embedded in the inner well, where they don't do that anymore. So again, just work your way down the seam, slowly popping it apart, and you can see it's very loose already. There you go, free and clear. So you can see there that little tiny hole. See if you can see that. There's a little tiny hole there on each of the corners, and then on the bottom, there's a pin that they like press into it. And I think that's really the only thing really holding these old ones together, is they just had some kind of machine that pressed them together, and that was it. So before we cut this out, we'll kind of look at it. Like I said, you can see a little more things when it's out of the outer case. So there's obviously a lot of dirt here. There's a tear that I can kind of maybe straighten up. Obviously, I can't replace the tear. I can't fix it. but if it's crunched up paper, I might be able to unfold it a little bit. And then there's a big stain in the corner that should easily come out with a hop, or at least mitigate it a lot. It's hard to tell, though. It looks like there may be a small amount of staple rust on both these staples. Staple rust is always bad because no matter what you do, it's going to keep going. Hop will mitigate it a little bit, and then it kills off a little bit of it, but it's still, rust is like a living thing, and once it starts, it's really hard to stop. So the goal that I'm going to have is to slow it as much as possible. Try and get it to where it's not spreading into the book and getting into the pages, because once it hits the pages, man, it just starts eating the book apart. So we'll go down. Again, you're going slow here. You do not want to cut your comic books. It's better to do this 7,000 times on top of itself over and over and over and over and over than it is to try and press really hard and get it all in the first pop and cut the top of your comic off. That's bad. Johnny does not like cut comic books. Yeah, I mean, honestly, this is the only time you can really damage it, taking it out of the case, Eric. I mean, I've had where I took the screwdriver and it gouged in because I slipped and wasn't really focused, and it just slides across the top. It never hurts the book. This part is where you can hurt your book. I'll show you another thing that you can do too. That I don't normally do this, but it works. Scissors. You can see where the scissors are. The big problem is when you get to a certain point, it wants to kind of fold the book. But I'm staying nice and clear. I usually don't do this just because that chance of a fold, but I can slide the book out of the top now if I really wanted to. But then if you go on the spine edge and do that same thing and just kind of cut the corner at an angle and then tap it down. Same thing, we're going to just cut the corner. We're going to do like the great Scott William Wallace said, we're going to give this thing some freedom. I don't know if he actually said that, David, but he says it in the movie, so I'm going to say it's legit. So that's it. Pretty simple. And look at how yellow that is. And like, you can't, it doesn't do justice. It looks like this was in a smoker's house. Obviously this was inside the case, so even if it wasn't a smoker's house, it wouldn't have that. But look how yellow that is on top of this. It's almost like blurry, so it actually detracts from the comic book a lot. And over time, they've gotten much better at these cases and how they make them. The newer interwells are like crystal clear. I mean, crystal clear. So save that. We're going to send it back to CGC as it could be UV damage, but it's like yellow, and it's almost like it's not just yellowed. It's like blurry. I've seen it most common when you get a collection or books that was in a house of a smoker, and they have that yellow haze on them. But yeah, either way, it's free. That UV does not protect these, or these cases do not protect these books from UV, so still store them in a cool, dry place. I think Swagglehorse did a really good video, or showed a guy who did a video, and he did some experiments with that and showed that none of these UV protections offer any protection. Creamed off-white pages, so that's not going to be something that I can do much about, and I'm going to guess these are some dark pages. Well, they're not too bad. I actually expected them to be a lot darker, so they're not actually too bad. They do use the acid sheets in these old ones, and every book has the acid sheets. Make sure you take that out before you press it, because it will cause indents. Usually they're behind both covers, but occasionally they'll be inside the book. You might see one at the centerfold or a couple pages in. The inside actually looks pretty good. I would say there's a good chance this comes back with off-white pages. The interior is very yellowed, but you can't do much about that. It's pretty natural for the inside to be like that. And I think I've seen a lot of books where the inside has more tanning than the outside. And I think it has to do with the cover sitting against the interior pages. I think there's some kind of reaction that causes that to darken, because I've seen lots of books where they look great. You open them and the inside is yellow, and it's always the inside covers. And I think it has to do with I'm not a scientist, or a chemical engineer or any of that, but I think it has to do with the reactions between the gloss paper and whatever style of paper that they use versus the newsprint on the inside. Because it's very common. It's usually very consistent. The whole inside cover is usually that way when it's like that. So this one's going to be a little bit tough clean on the front, just because of all the little black lines around the blocks of ice there with Iceman. I don't expect this to get a big bump, but I think we can get up to a 6.0 with this book. It definitely has potential. It's going to be really dependent on the grader, I think, on this book, because it does present really nicely. And again, this book's a little bit rougher, so I am not wearing gloves. My hands are very dry, very not oily. But definitely, if your hands feel damp or dry or sticky or tacky at all, make sure you wash your hands really good if you are going to do this, and dry them really good, because a fingerprint lasts forever. Once a fingerprint's in these books, it's permanent in there. So I didn't do my cotton round. I see a lot of just surface dirt that might come off there. So I got to get this one slabbed back again, because I don't have a 15, and I still need a number 7 slabbed. And my number 7 that I have is pretty rough. So I'm going to look and see about getting a better number 7. All right, so here's something we find. There is some kind of foreign substance right there. It's you can see it looks like black probably on the camera. It is crystallized, so it's some kind of something, food or dirt. But we should be able to get a lot of that off just by rubbing. You don't want to erase that stuff, because it'll dig into the paper. And again, this is a time where we'll use this little tool, this little dental tool thing, and see if we can't pick some of it off. Yeah, it's looking better. It's still there, but it's really embedded in. Oh, there we go. Got a nice big chunk of it off now. So it already looks a lot better. So that's gone. There is a tiny bit of staple rust now that when I can see it out of the book. Again, you can't do anything about staple rust. If you clean staple rust off of the array of the staples, you're going to get minimally a conserved label, but most likely a purple label. They do have a way to detect that, and I'm assuming it's with little scrapes and scuffs that happen on the surface when you're cleaning that off. So highly advise against cleaning staples, even if they're rusted, unless you're going to conserve it. If you're going to use the same era staple and replace them, I'm not a guy that can tell you how to preserve stuff. But for preservation, I know that is a technique that they use, a same era staple that was manufactured at the same time. Like, I would support that, but I would never clean your staples. Just because to me, that is restoration. You're altering the book in a way that it shouldn't be altered. I mean, I'm not altering the book. I'm just taking dirt off of it. And if conservation, if it's done properly, is great. If it's not done properly, it's really bad for the book and everything. When people try and color in colors that are for missing pieces, I mean, ends up looking worse than it would had you left it alone. But if you do it like the popular or the correct way, like if you ever watch Jerry the Jitterbug, he has a lot of conservation techniques he does, and the stuff he does is amazing. But he knows what he's doing, and he's conserving the book. He's not trying to sneak something by someone. He's trying to make the book, last forever, fixing things that could potentially make the book worse over time. He's got great content. If you've never checked him out, Jerry the Jitterbug, I would recommend it. It's just interesting to watch, even if you don't ever plan on doing anything like that or have never thought about it. Like, the techniques he does and some of the stuff he does, it's pretty crazy. Plus, he's a pretty good character. You know, he's got a fun personality. So this actually isn't that dirty. I thought it would. You know, it looked like it was a lot dirtier when it was in the case, but it's not nearly as bad as I thought. I mean, it definitely has some dirt on it, but not to the level I expected. So that's good because. And again, this book will definitely get a hop because of the stain on the back. I will probably hop the front as well because it could make that red on the Sentinels pop just a little bit better. And then the next 2 weeks, like I said, I'm not going to be around. I'm going to be on vacation with my kiddos and my wife. So watch all my old videos. Like, go back and watch all my old videos. It's good stuff. No, but if you're not around and you want some good content, all the guys that you've heard talk in this channel that have channels are very good content. Chonko has the worst luck of anyone I've ever seen with packaging, and he talks about it regularly, but he has some really great stuff. He's got a lot of cool pre-code horror stuff. Check out his videos and channel, Chonko's Comics and Nerd Culture. It's always okay to press before, King. The big thing I would say about if you press before you clean it is make sure there's no like boogers on it, like chunky things, because what happens if you press a book that has that on it, when you press them, it will embed it into the paper, and then it's going to be really hard to get out. If it's really, really wrinkled, I always press them before I clean them because it's harder. Like if this was all wrinkled, it'd be hard for me to get all the dirt off if it was still wrinkled, so I would press it first. But it really depends book by book. There's definitely the only negative, though, of pressing a book before you clean it is that, you know, having some kind of foreign substance that you're going to push down into the paper. You don't want to do that. If nothing else, just kind of rub your hand over it like this and feel for any chunky pieces, and then make sure you get those off. Yeah, no worries. Yeah, like I was saying, though, check out Chonko's Comics and Nerd Culture. Eric at Side Quest Comics, I'd also check out his stuff. He's a very good editor, which we discussed last night. He edits his videos very well. He's a huge X-Men fan like myself. But he's got some great content too. Just had some content, or is going to have some content, I believe, from Heroes Con. And then at the beginning, Big Nasty Rich. Rich does this thing where he randomly picks a box out of a hat and he just goes through all the books in his box. I think it's really enjoyable to just kind of see one, how he keeps his collection. He doesn't do like the A to Z. He has like all his artists in one book and box, and so it's pretty neat to see some of the stuff he has and how he does it. So, all right, here's a great one for you guys. So I don't know if you can see it. So this is that tear, and if you see on that tear, all of it's still there. It's just folded back. So I can fold that down, and then we press it. You're just going to have a crease there. It'll still have a little tear. Yeah, Side Quest. Eric's on tonight with the FOMO squad. But let's see, it's Dope Comics, Eric from Side Quest, Nate from Hall, yeah, and then Lettuce. Is that the fourth one? Did I get them right? Hagen from Lettuce. They're always good shows. I know that. I enjoy watching them. I don't ever get to watch anything live anymore. Everything I'm watching is usually on rewind or replay, just because it's summertime's just always crazy for me, especially with young kids. So his back is trashed. It's going to look fantastic when we're done. Let's go back to this, though. I want to talk about this some more. So you need to be really careful with these. I don't think I can zoom in. My camera's not set up that way. But you want to be real careful that you don't. The more I bend it back and forth, the more brittle it gets on the crease. So if you just try and uncrease it, you just put some pressure there, just so that when I put it in the press, that it's on the right way, so that the press will actually get it. And I've kind of gotten it there just by doing that. You can see there now, it's kind of unfolded. And it will look one, you won't get as big a ding because it's not as bad, but it's just going to look better because you don't see the inside of the book anymore. Once it presses, you won't see the inside of the book. I don't want to clean that at all, though. There's a lot of dirt around that crease, but I'm concerned if I clean much right there, I'm going to break that piece off, and I'd rather have it a little dirty spot there than not a piece of paper there. I think every situation is different, and you got to kind of judge it each time on what it looks like. But on this one specifically, I'll clean up around here, but I'm not going to clean down by where that tear is. From a CGC standpoint or CBCS, if that's the choice you use, you're not going to make it. The only thing you could do if you try and clean that is make it worse. You're not going to make it better. And then I guess PSA now, next month or this month, they're going to be in the mix. I'm very reluctant to grade with PSA until I can see that they are consistent. I'm a little concerned with they don't have a 9.9 grade, so they're going to be a lot of 10s. And, in cards, it's very easy to have a 10 because it's all about cutting the card properly and just not having any surface defects. Where a comic book's, it's a bunch of pages of paper stapled together. There's going to be variation from book to book. And you're going to have, straight off the press, it's very rare to have a perfect book that has not even a bindery tear in it. So I don't want them to try and push the card grading system into comics because it's a different grading structure. It should be a different grading structure because the processes of manufacturing are completely different. But we shall see. I also do not like their label. I know they've worked on it a lot, but the most recent one I've seen, it's just not, it doesn't look nice. I think the big thing is everyone complains about CGC, but the value is there. Like whether you like CGC or not, if you have two 8.0s and one's a CGC and one's a CBCS, I mean, you're going to get 10, 15, 20% more out of the CGC book than the CBCS book. And honestly, the CBCS book is probably graded a little stricter than the CGC. But the market just likes the CGC book better. And I don't know why that is. I don't think their standards are any better. I think the grades are pretty consistent. I don't think they're consistent when you get with like the PGX or the EGS. The I think it's EGS. The custom label thing they do is kind of cool. But I've seen some of those books that are probably a 6.0 and they're graded like a 9.4. So like I can't respect a company that's that far off. And I've been grading comic books in my head and for sale and for purchase for a long time. Like I have a pretty good gauge on grades, and I definitely know the difference between a 6.0 and a 9.4. But we'll see what PSA does. Hopefully, if nothing else, it's just good competition for CGC to up their standards, maybe work on their quality control a little bit. And I don't think they're purposely negligent with quality control. I just think it's a staffing issue. I think they just, they're understaffed. A lot of people submitting books nowadays, and it's not like you can quickly train someone how to grade a book. There's a lot of intricacies with grading a book. And I think, I think they get a bum rap sometimes. I mean, sometimes it's very blatant and it's like, what is this? But when I think a book's a 9.8 and I get a 9.6, I can't be too upset with that. I mean, it's usually a judgment call. It's like a ball or a strike, in baseball. It's very close. And at the end of the day, they saw something that they quantified it as not being a 9.8. Just because I didn't see it doesn't mean it's not there. So here's another thing we can talk about on this book specifically. There's a store stamp. Charles Toner, or a person, this is actually the guy who owned it, with his address and everything. So call him up, asking me wants his X-Men book back. This guy's address. Maybe I'll write a letter, see if I can find this guy. I do like looking these people up when I see them, but don't mess with that. Just don't, if it's a store stamp, if it's a kid's stamp that's got their name and stuff on there, don't mess with it. It's only going to hurt you to try and change this. The inks they used on these stamps in the 60s and 70s are, they bleed right into the paper. You start trying to get rid of it, it's just going to fade out and look really bad. CGC does not really ding you for store stamps unless they're covering like a major piece of the artwork. Anybody that collects comics is probably familiar with Bonnet's bookstore. There's a ton of comic books. Tons and tons and tons of Silver Age comic books have the Bonnet's bookstore stamp on the cover, and they don't really ding you for that. And it's a good size stamp. It's it's probably that big around. It says Bonnet's bookstore, Dayton, Ohio. So yeah, don't mess with the stamps. Just leave them alone. Don't try and clean them. A hop won't really affect them in a negative or positive way. Just the heritage of the book, part of the life it lived, where it started in the world. I think it's cool to find books that have like full names on them, because especially nowadays, I like to Google people and see if I wonder if this person's still alive, man. I'd be more than happy to give this, if this was a 12-year-old kid that put this stamp on there and he's 75 now, how awesome would it be to get that guy, hey man, I got your book, and give that book back to that guy. Like, I think that'd just be really cool. I've never ever found anyone that had their name on a book, but I always look, man. You never know. Obviously, if you find a book from the 40s that's got someone's name on it, most likely that person's not around anymore. But the 60s and 70s, there are lots of people who were, kids in the 60s and 70s are still, very much alive. And I think it'd be neat. I never wrote on my books, but how awesome that'd be to get a call as an older adult in your 60s or 70s. And it's like, hey, I have a comic book that you owned when you were a kid. It's got your name written on it. I just think that'd be cool. I just don't know how practical it is. And, even if you take a really unique name, like my name's really unique. My legal name is John Van Ostrand. And if you Google my name, there's multiple of me. There are more than one John Van Ostrand out there. I'm also the sixth. So obviously my father, my grandfather, his grandfather, there's a lot of us. But there's actually, I became friends with everyone on Facebook when I joined Facebook that had the same name as me. So there's a guy in Canada, same name as me. He's like a scuba diver. That I've actually talked to over the years just because we have the same name. I think it's cool. High probability we're probably related somewhere along the lines. But I digress. We're cleaning comic books. So from a cleaning standpoint, I think we're pretty much done here. I think I don't know how well it shows in the cameras, but it's a lot cleaner. The back's not nearly as dirty as it was. We'll use the makeup brush. Ooh, careful on the flap. And again, when I put this in the press, I'm going to be real careful with this corner just to make sure I get that flap down and get it pressed down so that I don't press it backwards and exposed. So you can press a book this side up or this side up. Some people do one side and then flip it over and do the other. I don't do that. I usually just press it one time. So when I press this book, I will press it bottom up just so I can see that as I'm putting the press down to make sure it's good. The only time you would really need to flip it is if it's both sides are really bad and there are lots of stuff. But like I said, with the new technique and the new cleaning and pressing book Captain Mike put out, I have not had any issues. Very, very little, if any, reversion. So this book's going to look nice. Like I said, I don't think it's going to have a huge bump. I'm guessing it's around a 6. I think that's where I'm going to level out. I think it's going to finish around a 6.0. I'll go through it, make sure there's no surprises, no gunk on any pages, no missing coupons or anything like that. So that's going to wrap it up for today, guys. Like I said, I will be out the next 2 Sundays. So check out all my friends. SideQuest Comics, Up and Adam Comics, Nate from Hall Yeah, Chonko's Comics and Nerd Culture, Rich at Big Nasty Comics. All great dudes. They all have great content. And, keep collecting, keep buying good stuff. And if you ever have any questions on cleaning or pressing, or you get into a technique and you're not sure, you can ask me in one of my videos, hit me up on Instagram. I'm more than happy to help, if you're dealing with something you're not sure what to do, and reach out. I'll share whatever knowledge I can. And thank you, Rich. I'm looking forward to it. I will see you guys in a couple weeks. I'll pop into your shows here in the next couple of days, but heading out Thursday, and then won't be back till, I want to say, like the 15th. I don't know. It's a long trip. I don't vacation well either. So I'm already like, damn, when am I going to be home? I'm going to miss my comic books. I got to go pick up a couple graphic novels this week to take with me to read on the boat and on the airplane. So, keep doing what you do, guys. Keep collecting, and we'll catch you guys next time. Have a good weekend and a great week, and enjoy the 4th of July and celebrate the founding of our country. So have a good one. See you guys.
A hero rises in the night's embrace, with shadows dancing on a masked face. Pages turn where legends collide. In this world we take a wild ride. Flash out a metal screen. Cave shadows chase a fleeting dream. Webs entangle up in the air. Heroes heed the call when danger's there. Johnny's comic stuff, take the stage. Bright and bold from panel to page. X-Men battle in the stormy tide. Batman glides through the moonlit sky. Through tangled webs and hearts made of gold, stories unravel and truths are told. Villains rise, but they always fall. Heroes stand strong, they answer the call. Spandex suits and a will of steel. A world of fiction you can almost feel. Stories that shape a hero's plight, burning bright in the darkest fight. Johnny's comic stuff, take the stage. Bright and bold from panel to page. X-Men battle in the stormy tide. Batman glides through the moonlit sky.